We begin with one of the big drivers of industry in the Caribbean, the offshore financial sector, helping stash more than $30 trillion worldwide. Some of this money is right here in the Caribbean, thanks to low taxes and loose laws that make it easy to set up companies. While good for the local economy, many question the lack of transparency in the sector. Part of the problem is the use of so-called nominee directors who sign documents on behalf of the real owners of these companies. So why would business owners use a Caribbean national they don't necessarily know to represent their company? As Andre Huey found out, sometimes it's for good reason. These owners sometimes have plenty to hide. To St. Kitts and Nevis we go, at 17 degrees north and 63 degrees west.
This is Stanley Williams. He operates from Nevis, an island of only 36 square miles and 10,000 people. On paper, he should be one of the most powerful businessmen in the Caribbean. After all, Williams is a director of hundreds of companies. Leaked documents obtained by the Washington, D.C.-based International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, show that for one company, Williams served as the meeting chairman, took minutes as secretary, and declared business open and closed. Oddly, he was the only one present. That's because Williams is actually a nominee director, someone who sold his name for a few $100s to be used on a company's official documents so the real owners can conceal their identities. And it's legal.
Nominee directorship is an activity that is monitored and supervised by us. We do go to their place of business and look at their files to see whether or not they are complying with our legislation.
Nominee directors come from all over: the UK, Cyprus, Dubai, and Mauritius. One London-based watchdog group says some nominees don't even know what their names are being used for.
We had one example of a huge company involved in the shipment of gas into Europe, made millions and millions and millions of dollars each year. It was in theory owned by a 70-year-old out-of-work Romanian actress who told us that she got involved in the company to pay her telephone bill. Now clearly she doesn't know what's going on in the company, or at least I assume she doesn't.
Here's how it works. For several $100s, a person can register a company in a tax-free Caribbean country and keep their money abroad without anybody knowing. Caribbean countries like Nevis, the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, and the British Virgin Islands service hundreds of thousands of these companies and charge fees. Just last year, they made $3 billion. A nominee director is just another option for an extra layer of secrecy. But critics say this system enables fraud and tax evasion.
This is something that we have seen time and time again in our investigations, is corrupt politicians and others using offshore bank accounts, offshore structures to disguise what they're doing and to move their money around.
In a 3-month investigation, 18 Degrees North searched through thousands of documents to uncover the real owners behind the companies fronted by Nevis's very own Stanley Williams. We found many of them were from former Soviet countries. Some of them had questionable backgrounds. Take this Russian banker, Vasily Yatskov. In June 2007, the bank he helped manage, wealthiest, wrote him a reference letter so he could open his offshore company, Good Lake, registered in the BVI and fronted by Stanley Williams. Later that year, the license of the bank would be revoked. Russian authorities flagged several suspicious transactions through wealthiest, and his offshore, Good Lake, received an inquiry from the Financial Investigation Agency in the BVI. By 2009, Good Lake was closed. Then separately, in 2013, Yatskov was charged with money laundering in connection with Russia's former head of border protection, Dmitry Bezdelov, who is suspected of defrauding Russia as much as $30 million. Efforts to contact both men were unsuccessful. Up to this point, there is no proof that anyone has done anything illegal with an offshore company we identified. But what of Stan Williams, who supposedly signed these companies' documents as director? Would he be aware of any illegal activities? We decided to find out. Tracking him down was no easy task. First, we called the companies that hired Williams, but he never called us back. So we traveled by boat from St. Kitts to Nevis to find him. After much driving and searching, we finally found Wynwood Villa.
Hello?
This is the address that showed up for Williams and other nominee directors in the database, including Sarah and Edward Petromers and Kelly France. We called at the gate and a man answered. We never got his name, but he resembled Edward Petromers. A neighbor also confirmed an Eddie lived there, but she didn't know his last name.
We're just leaving Wynwood Villas. I was calling there for a while. No one showed up. When we were about to leave, someone came, as you saw. I went up to him to introduce myself, and he told me to leave. Basically, he told me he's going to call the police, and so we left the property.
We checked. The registrar had no ownership records for Wynwood Villa. As for Williams, we found out he is in construction and a member of a biking club, pictured here with fellow nominee director Sarah Petromers.
All right, we just got information that Stanley Williams is on a construction site in the Newcastle area, so we're going to go there and see if we can find him.
We found Stan Williams, but he declined an interview. He says he no longer provides nominee services. The runaround we encountered getting information is the same one governments around the world face trying to capture the estimated $3 trillion lost to tax evasion each year, some of it offshore.
To detect and deter offshore tax evasion.
In 2014, the U.S. began enforcing FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, to force offshore entities to hand over information about American account owners, or else face stiff penalties. And globally, member countries in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development are also making similar moves.
Today we endorse the Common Reporting Standard for the automatic exchange of tax information. This is a big achievement. The globe needs to know who's paying tax where. This standard will significantly enhance transparency and reduce opportunities for tax evasion and avoidance.
Moves like these have created a dilemma for Caribbean countries like the BVI and Nevis. On one hand, they want to win international favor.
We have an obligation to keep confidential information. That doesn't mean that the information cannot be disclosed under an agreement between countries or any type of regulatory or law enforcement action.
But on the other hand, sharing client information can weaken their appeal as a global hub for business. Already, new registrations have fallen in the BVI, the world's leading destination for offshore companies. Still, Robert Palmer says there are plenty of loopholes left to close.
This is all good progress, but we still have a huge amount of distance to go. And it still is pretty straightforward. If you are a rich individual or a big company, you can use complicated structures to avoid paying your tax.
With this in mind, Stanley Williams and other nominee directors will probably stay mighty busy and elusive by the owners and assets of the companies they pretend to manage.